We no longer ask questions about how much others uphold the principles of equality and justice prior to granting them the social capital that is fame. We just hand it over because we're injected with images of their material wealth and physical beauty and sold the idea that if we just work hard enough, we can have that wealth and beauty too. When I say American Civil Rights Movement, you probably first think of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. When I say South African anti-apartheid movement, you probably think of Nelson Mandela. When I say Cuban Revolution, you probably think of Fidel Castro and Che Guevara. Why are we sold the idea of almighty, powerful individuals who virtually single-handedly came along and changed the course of history? Why are liberation movements so readily reduced to a single person, typically a man? For one, the patriarchy, obviously. But two, it's because in our society, largely thanks to the principles of capitalism, we are sold the idea of the glorified individual, which conveniently erases the collective effort from the teaching of history. This ignores the reality that all forward progress is the result of collective action, not the actions of one man. Yes, there are great leaders who deserve their flowers, but they never work alone. Revolution, by definition, cannot be an act carried out by one man. Revolution is something that is both carried out by the collective and affects the collective. Indoctrinated with the values of hyper-individualism, we have forgotten that every one of our actions has implications on the collective. We are not sitting ducks waiting for someone to lead a movement so we can be a part of it. We are the movement right now, whether we know it or not. Our actions right now have real tangible impact. So does our inaction. In this video, we're exploring the rise of hyper-individualism briefly because I do have another video about it, and how it has contributed to celebrity culture and the loss of the concept of collective action as the foundation of a movement. The concept of individualism is a pillar of free market capitalism, which prioritizes private property rights, self-reliance, and personal responsibility. While individualism is valuable and correct in emphasizing the moral worth and uniqueness of the individual, we have seen it now progress into an extreme form, which many refer to as hyper-individualism, the tendency for people to prioritize their own wants and needs without regard for others or for society. In Possessive Individualism, A Crisis of Capitalism, Daniel Bromley discusses the rise of individualism in modern society, which began centuries ago during the Age of Enlightenment, but has continued and evolved into a more sinister form due to global capitalism and the prioritization of the free market. He writes, "Recall that market economies are celebrated precisely because they are said to give individuals exactly what they desire in the way of goods and services, constrained only by their income. Notice that there are no obligations in a market economy. There are only tempting choices. Individuals can have exactly what they want, with the only condition that they must pay for it. But this is not an obligation or duty towards others." What has happened now is a shift in how individuals view themselves within society. In this video by Deja Sade, she explains this as a collective shift away from being citizens to being consumers. She explains that citizens understand themselves as a part of a whole, recognizing that services that exist for everyone are valuable even if an individual personally doesn't use that service. It's still seen as valuable because it exists for the collective. On the other hand, consumers see themselves as an individual, placing value only on services that directly benefit them, services they are directly using. A citizen, by definition, is part of a whole, owing allegiance to, sharing in the political rights. A consumer, by definition, is one that utilizes, or in biology, a consumer is literally something that requires complex organic compounds for food, which it obtains by preying on other organisms. Notice how, in that definition, there's no reference to an entity larger than itself. and no reference to the act of giving or sharing anything. A consumer indulges in what they need when they need it. A citizen is rooted in loyalty to and sharing with an entity larger than itself. So what happens when we stop viewing ourselves as citizens and start viewing ourselves as consumers? Many things, but one of them is the creation of the glorified individual, aka celebrity culture. Consumers have individual priorities, which creates the concept of individual responsibility. An individual must take care of themselves. No one's going to do it for them, right? This gives rise to the idea of individual success. Someone that was able to get what they need is seen as a success. Doesn't matter who was affected or neglected in the process. The more this person has been able to obtain wealth, status, fame, etc., the more successful they are seen as, the more glorified. Thus, we have created the glorified individual, which is the backbone of celebrity culture. The glorified individual is also the backbone for consumerism, in which an individual's personal capacity for consumption is directly correlated with their success in the world. The more rich someone is, the more they can consume, the more they are glorified within our society. If we were able to have collective priorities, we would create the concept of collective responsibility, which would then be linked to the idea of collective success, reframed and distinctive from individual success. Collective success, in my opinion, would then be understood as all or at least the vast majority of individuals within the collective having what they need to survive, be comfortable, and enjoy being alive. Under these circumstances, rather than having created the glorified individual, we will have created the community, which would be the backbone of citizen culture, a society in which people are civically engaged, take care of communal spaces, and value public goods and services that are accessible to all. I would say we're not at a point where we've been able to achieve that, so currently we're still living in the age of consumerism and celebrity culture. Bell Hooks discusses the topic of modern-day celebrity culture in All About Love. In keeping with this shift in values from a people-oriented to a thing-oriented society, the rich and famous, particularly movie stars and singers, began to be seen as the only relevant cultural icons. Gone were the visionary political leaders and activists. Suddenly, it was no longer important to bring an ethical dimension to the work life. Making money was the goal, and by whatever means. It's no longer important to bring an ethical dimension to the work life. This was written in the 90s, but it remains just as, if not more, relevant today. If we ask ourselves why we have given certain individuals celebrity status, why we place them up on a pedestal and give them all this social capital, it has nothing to do with their civic engagement, advocacy, or commitment to making the world a better place for others in some way. Instead, it has everything to do with the pseudo-identity their industry has created, packaged, and sold for them. That identity is why we love them. That's why we idolize them. And what is that identity? Usually it's based on toxic hypersexualization, physical beauty, and extreme wealth. Those are the aspirations we are taught to have through modern celebrity culture. Once we have accepted our role as consumer, not citizen, the ethical dimension ceases to exist both for ourselves and for our celebrities. We no longer care to hold each other up to an ethical standard. We no longer ask questions about how much others uphold the principles of equality and justice prior to granting them the social capital that is fame. We just hand it over because we're injected with images of their material wealth and physical beauty and sold the idea that if we just work hard enough, we can have that wealth and beauty too. Because somewhere along the way, we have been convinced that that is the ultimate goal in life. Now, when critiquing celebrity culture in this way, it is important to note that art is a powerful form of resistance. But unfortunately, and this might be a hot take, the most prominent celebrity figures today are primarily commodities and secondarily artists. Their artistry is not really their primary role in society. Their primary role as celebrity figures is to use their body and natural talents for profit. Take someone like Beyonce, for example, an incredible singer, dancer, and performer. Yes, she is an artist, a very talented and hardworking one. But what has happened through decades of her being in the industry is that her identity and persona that has been created by the industry has become a commodity, which is sold primarily to young women of color and works to engorge herself and the billion-dollar corporation she's tied to. That might rub some people the wrong way, but I think we should be able to acknowledge her talent and value as an artist while still being able to critique her immense cultural influence and the ways she decides to use it or not use it. T Noir here on YouTube has a great video about that, which I highly recommend checking out. Obviously, Beyonce is one example, and I reference her because she has been a very powerful force within the industry, and I myself have spent years buying into her self-commodification. But virtually all celebrities could be critiqued in the same way. And it's not really their fault per se, it's the design of the industry, it's the design of capitalism that encourages and requires commodification of everything, even human beings, for the sake of profit, even at the expense of a healthy, balanced society. So as the consumers, we literally create fame with our attention. If our attention is withheld, fame, aka societal influence, cannot exist. So naturally, corporations that profit off of fame, like the entertainment and advertising industries, depend on our attention in order to access and increase profits. Why do you think they work so hard to have it? Reality television, social media, both of which are riddled with bright colored, loud music, witty lined advertisements, showcasing sex appeal, material wealth, and other superficial markers of desirability. They are grabbing our attention every waking second of our days and using it for profit. And it's working. Take the recent American Eagle ad, for example. You know the one. Even though they received lots of negative attention, it's still attention. And it's giving them social capital through maintaining relevance. That's why there's that saying in the industry of no publicity is bad publicity. If consumers' attention is a necessary ingredient in fame and profit acquisition, that makes us very powerful, doesn't it? If we are able to reclaim our attention, we reclaim our power. If we redirect our attention, we redirect our power. What we have today is the mindless consumer, buying so many unnecessary things, watching so much mindless content. In doing both, we implicitly condone these oppressive systems of domination. The world doesn't need that. What the world needs is the citizen, the person that sees the humanity in others, cares about how their actions affect others, and is willing to put in the work to build community so that all can access the things they need to live comfortably. That should be the priority. Reclaiming our attention means thinking first and buying later, or better yet, not buying at all. And the buying I'm referring to is both of material things, but also buying into ideas, like the notion of the glorified individual, the celebrity. I stopped using TikTok and shopping on Amazon. Those are small acts that I believe have been effective in reclaiming my attention, limiting my exposure to empty mental stimulation, and instead being okay sitting in silence or reading more books. Are other ways. And another way of reclaiming my attention has been stepping away from celebrity worship, even when it comes to social activist celebrities. This brings me to my next point, abandoning hyper-individualism for the pursuit of true collective freedom. Even in the social justice space, the glorification of individuals can still be very damaging to the collective psyche. For one, we end up assigning more value to the celebrity, to the famous person, than we do to the people they're advocating for. The public-facing activist, the celebrity, has all this social capital, while, say, the people of Gaza remains this abstract concept with no social capital, when really every single life should be assigned the same value. Isn't that the whole point of collective freedom? Another thing that happens when we glorify social justice celebrities is that we place them up on a pedestal and make it our job to uphold that pedestal, rather than making it our job to utilize our own creative power and attention to affect positive change within our own communities. It's one thing to give famous leaders their well-deserved flowers, but it's another thing to just crown them with the responsibility of saving society, of saving us, while absolving ourselves of our own responsibility. We may be consciously or subconsciously telling ourselves that's their job, that's their purpose in life, not mine, or they're doing such great work. If I just applaud them and put them on this pedestal and make them my icon, that should be enough, right? That, while it has better intention than mindless celebrity worship, is still a form of hyper-individualist glorification that in many ways is antithetical to the notion of collective liberation. Leaders in our society are important catalysts for energizing a movement, but we can't forget about the countless people that work behind the scenes in order to have a functional movement. We can't forget that we are a part of the movement too, and just as valuable a part of the movement as the leaders. My point is that it's not really about a leader the way that history teaches it to us. It's about all of us together. I think that as we reimagine global systems and reimagine the way it is, we can also reimagine the revolution, this idea of a revolution, as not being something that is led by one or two, but as being carried out by every single one of us together. Especially as we're living in a time when the political infrastructure is failing us so miserably, we can't rely on political leaders. Crackdown on political dissent is high, so we also don't want to place individual leaders in a dangerous situation. Now we're tasked with clearing our minds of the individualist conditioning that we've been fed from a very early age through these ideas that Lincoln freed the slaves, MLK ended racial segregation. Clearing our minds of this idea that one person worked really hard and was very powerful and changed the course of history. That's not how it worked back then, and that's not how it's going to work now. I saw this on Pinterest, and it says, "It can be overwhelming to witness, experience, take in all the injustices of the moment. The good news is that they're all connected. So if your little corner of work involves pulling at one of the threads, you're helping to unravel the whole damn cloth." We all just need a little corner of work. Little ways that we take care of the communal spaces we occupy. Little ways that we can advocate for those facing oppression and injustice. Little ways that we teach and encourage those around us to resist exploitative industries. It all matters. You matter. Resisting celebrity culture and hyper-individualism means coming back to the truth that all forward progress is a result of collective action and community. And those are things we can build right now, and in many ways we are building right now, even if we don't realize it. We don't have to wait for some almighty powerful leader to start taking action in our daily lives. While those leaders, when they do come along, are inspiring and important energizers for a movement, they are not the center of a movement. We are. I think that the sooner we remember that, and the more of us that do, the sooner we can start to tangibly build the infrastructure for revolutionizing the world in a positive way. So I hope this video was helpful, informative. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments, whether you agree, whether you disagree. I'd love to hear them. If you enjoy conversations like this, be sure to check out some of my past videos and hit the subscribe button and turn on your post notifications so you can be notified every time I upload in the future. Let me know of any other topics or discussions you would like to see me have, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!